Hello and welcome to Mystic Visions. This is a monthly tarot reading for Gemini for February. And this is a general reading using my adaptation of a Celtic cross. And if you're a regular subscriber to the channel, you may have noticed that I haven't been quite as active this month as I normally am, and that's because my daughter was just born on January 23rd. So I may just do the monthly readings for a little while until things begin to settle down. In any case, this is the monthly February reading for Gemini. Okay, so okay. So, Gemini friends, it seems like you may be feeling a need to kind of defend yourself, or that other people are sort of challenging your authority, or just that there's a need for you to kind of rise above everybody, or become a leader a little bit. There's kind of a call to arms for you here, where it's necessary for you to embody a lot of strength and confidence and that type of thing in this situation to get others on board with you, because there's going to be a lot of struggles and fighting that you're going to have to play whack-a-mole with people's emotions a little bit here. What's crossing you is this Page of Coins. So Page of Coins, this is a beginning in the mastery of the material. So there may be a lot of worry that is surrounding your finances, or how you're going to make ends meet, how you're going to get through things, because you might feel as though you're kind of like just starting a journey over again, or just beginning on some new venture, and money's not necessarily incredibly secure at this point. So there's a little bit of fear, possibly, or just unease about having to start off on some monetary journey. Now, what you're moving away from is this temperance. So in the past, there's been some sort of probably almost traumatic experience, and the temptation is always to kind of let those things break you down when you go through some hardships. But the opportunity is for temperance to be something that builds you up, something that makes you stronger. So when you temper like a sword, you throw it in the fire and heat it up and bang it with a hammer, and it gets harder and it gets stronger as the result of going through that tempering process. So think about temperance as, fixing your temper a little bit, or instead of allowing your emotions to just kind of take away or take off without you, it's an opportunity for you to be able to utilize those emotions, or to remain kind of in control of them instead of them controlling you. And what you're moving toward is the sun in the reverse. So, the sun typically represents some sort of knowledge that's out in the open, some enlightenment or something like that, something known. But in the reverse, it's kind of a false knowledge, or it's thinking that you know something that you don't really know. So you're moving towards some goal or some situation with some sort of knowledge, which is actually incorrect. It's not right. So and that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? A lot of times we think we know how things are going to turn out, and it's completely different. And it turns out to be much better than we had anticipated, or something like that. So, you may be feeling as though you're headed into some unknowns here, but it's not quite it's not quite exactly where you think you're going. There's going to be some twists or turns, or some things are going to be a little bit different than you thought they would be. Now, the foundation of your situation here, foundation kind of represents what's going on in the subconscious, the sort of overall lesson that's being taught, or the reason that you are seeing this scenario play out in your life, the reason that the universe is providing it to you. And so what you have here is the Magician in the reverse. So what this is it's saying that you have been a little bit unable to manifest what you've wanted. You've had some struggles, and I kind of see it as a direct result of getting a little bit too emotionally involved, or getting a little too worked up about situations, not remaining steady or calm enough. There's been a little bit of a lack of that temperance, which has caused you to possibly, like, even though you may have been well on the way to manifesting the things that you wanted, you kind of maybe tripped up a little bit on the way, or had a couple missteps. And so this Magician in the reverse is just kind of telling you that what you're learning to do here is how to manifest with a little bit more skill, or a little bit more steady hand, right? Now, what's on your mind is strength. So, and this strength card, it's almost always a little young, delicate female who has her arms caressing a lion, a very dangerous beast. Yet her steady willpower, her steady confidence and peace, her sense of peace, in a way kind of protects her from that lion, because it doesn't alarm the lion. The lion is used to everybody being kind of afraid of it. But with this lady, she's not afraid, and she's very much at peace. And so the lion is almost hypnotized by this complete lack of fear that she has, where the lion begins to see her as more of an equal, even though he's way more physically capable than she is. He doesn't see her as vulnerable because of her demeanor, because of how she's coming across. And so that's like true inner strength is really what this card is about, not necessarily like the physical prowess or whatnot, but the real strength comes from the internal. And so this being in your crowning thoughts, you're either looking to achieve this type of strength, or you're focused on strength. So it's a good place. This is a great thing to have in your crowning thoughts. But so what I would say is, if you're trying to overcome fear, if you're trying to overcome the shakes a little bit, you don't do that by focusing on the object of your fear, right? You do that by focusing on what strength is, because the more you kind of like feed your thoughts in a particular direction, the more that thought will begin to manifest. And so this is also another, you're in a good start for having this Magician in your foundation here, because in order to achieve the Magician's power of manifestation, you have to be able to control your focus, which means when situations get rough, when things get kind of hard for you, rather than focusing on how this situation is dangerous, or how it's breaking you down, or how it fills you with fear, you have to be able to shift your focus to what something else, right? And in this case, I recommend focusing on what bravery looks like. Imagine in your mind what you look like as a brave person, or as a person who's more brave than you are. And it has a way of coming to fruition if you're focusing on it. Now, if you're in a situation where there's like a clear and present danger, fear has a function. Fear is a very natural part of life. The problem is that most people in today's society kind of identify themselves as their personality, their mind, and that mind is really just meant to be a sort of troubleshooter in your environment. It's meant to protect you from threats and whatnot. But because we've come to identify ourselves with our minds, we kind of see danger everywhere. And so we kind of the whole society is really just too tense and too afraid at every corner. And so I almost feel just perfectly comfortable giving the universal advice to just not be afraid, because even though fear is a really good and helpful thing in the right context, we're just so far over the other side to where it's become such a big negative in most of our lives. And I've met a handful of people who I felt had a really healthy relationship with fear. And when I say a handful, I mean less than 5, in my entire life. And I know a lot of people. So the very, very best thing for you to do is to stay focused on how you can maintain that confidence and bravery. And that really is the key to manifesting pretty much everything that you need. So your advice for this situation, you have the High Priestess in the reverse. So, this card is meant to tell you, if you're trying to tap into this a little bit, kind of let the mind go a little bit and get more in tune with your feelings and intuitions. You know what I mean? And that doesn't mean that you allow your feelings to just affect you, right? So your feelings can be used as a tool. They can be utilized. You can be conscious of your feelings, and using those feelings, you can direct your action, but not in such a way where you're letting like fear grip you. So there's a distinction that you have to make there. It's easy to miss, where you can be really caught up in the mind. You can be really caught up in thinking about things, and being caught up in those thoughts, your feelings kind of get the better of you, because your feelings just sort of exacerbate whatever fears or things are going on in your mind. But what you're looking to do here is to kind of silence that mind a little bit and pay attention to just what the feelings are telling you, and kind of guiding yourself by the feeling itself and not using the mind, right? So if you're feeling some sort of unease or something, find a way to silence the mind a little bit, and maybe do some meditation and ask yourself what the source of that feeling is. Because if you kind of meditate on that feeling, a lot of times you'll find that there's something different going on than you initially thought, right? So you might feel a lot of anxiety about a money situation, for example, and that might drive you to make some rash decision about money, or it could make you go, maybe you feel like you absolutely have to have more money than you have. So you go off and you put a bet down at some gambling institution, some casino or something like that. And perhaps it would have been better for you to just sit there and ask yourself, why is this so important? What are you going to actually need this money for? And is there a way that you can, approach the situation differently, so that you can shift your priorities around a little bit? Are you paying too much for a car payment really, when what's important to you is your family? And are you allowing that big car payment to sort of put your family's well-being at risk? And if so, you may want to go sell that car and buy something cheaper or something like that. So just focus internally on what those feelings are pointing to. What is it that your feelings are trying to tell you? Now, the environment card here, we have the 9 of Swords. So there's a lot of worry going on around. This is very, very closely associated with anxiety. So it could be that a lot of your worries or anxiety have been kind of infectious, coming from your environment, coming from people around you. There's not a lot of that confidence and stability. So, and you're very much going to have to be the one to rise above. You're going to have to be that steady leadership. And you can be infectious as well, but you have to keep on going. You have to keep that steadfast attitude to be able to sway the other people instead of them swaying you, right? So stick in there, and it's not as bad as it seems. I think there's probably a lot of negative attitudes around you that are kind of bringing you down a little bit. So your fears card, you have this Lovers in the reverse. And so I think what that means is that you're probably afraid of having a lack of choices. You're afraid of basically having no choice, or you're kind of in a place where you want some freedom, you want some ability to have some wiggle room, some leeway, and things are a little bit close. They're a little bit down to the wire. And so that kind of tests your faith a little bit, you know. You feel like you don't really have a lot of options or a lot of way out. And, you know, again, I would suggest you can't think your way through those types of situations. It's like a Chinese finger trap. The more thought you put into it, the more you feel trapped. So paradoxically, a good way to do this is to say, okay, I'm feeling all tied in a knot. I'm feeling like I'm walking a tightrope. There's very little that I can do here. So what you do instead of trying to brute force through those situations, you just put it all away. And that's really the nature of what meditation is. And I've thought about maybe teaching a meditation class on YouTube or something, but meditation is really... you're not meditating for any particular reason. You're meditating because it's literally attempting to do nothing. To think about nothing, to be doing nothing, to just sit there and do nothing. And in the process, you're teaching your mind to sort of become still. So you don't have all this chatter and thoughts going on in your brain all the time. You just kind of let all that go, and you just... you know, you come to a calm. The way to clear the muddy water is to let it be still, right? So that's the object with meditation. But what the miraculous thing that occurs is meditation has a tendency, if you're doing it right, if you're actually doing nothing, if you're allowing your mind to kind of come to rest, like think of like a ship in a bottle, and it's very turbulent, it's been shaken up, and the water is just sloshing back and forth. So that water is not going to become any stiller by putting more thought into it, by thinking your way through it. The way that water becomes still is by just allowing it to settle, by not putting more energy into it, but to allow the energy that's in it to settle. And it takes time. And it's hard to do because a lot of times when we feel one wave slosh back and another wave slosh back, we feel like we're out of control and we've got to do something before that next wave hits. But if instead you focus on simply doing nothing, just being there and allowing those waves to hit you, like the waves break on the shore, right? The shore doesn't prepare or tense up or anything like that. It just happens. It just hits. And absent any extra energy from a storm or something, eventually it'll calm down. Right? So that's the idea, is to let it calm. And then what happens is after you've become significantly calmer, you will experience a burst of mental energy. Your brain will work better at the end of that, especially if you practice it regularly. It's like recharging your mental batteries. And new solutions will present themselves that you didn't even think about before. And you can't force yourself to think about those things if you simply don't have the mental energy to do anything about it. If you're feeling stressed, you don't have the energy. So the one way that you can make yourself a little bit better is to let it all go. Throw it all away completely. And, you know, you can pick it back up at some other point, so don't worry about that. But take some time. Set aside a particular amount of time to just throw all that away and just do nothing. Just enjoy yourself, you know. Now, your overall message here is the Four of Swords in the reverse. And this, you know, I didn't even look at this, but this really drives home what I was just saying about meditation and whatnot. This is suggesting that you have an overall lack of rest, or you're refusing to rest. You're thinking that you have to think your way through it. And that thinking about thinking, oh God, that'll drive you nuts. It's just like chasing your own tail. So, one of my favorite authors has this saying that I like: a person who thinks all the time has nothing to think about except thoughts. So you've got to lay your thoughts down a little bit. Give yourself some time to come to your senses. And I mean that literally, right? Because when you stop thinking, you just allow yourself to sense what's going on around you. To just, without labeling it, and that's really what thought is labels, right? It's trying to model reality within your own brain. So when I say stop thinking or do nothing, that doesn't mean that you're, dead or asleep or anything like that. But it means that you're just not going through all this effort, this mental anguish to just kind of code and label everything that's going on around you. You just take it in. You just allow your senses to just come in uninhibited by you. You're just observing what's going on around you. So that's what's very, very much coming through as a need for you here, because there's definitely a lack of that kind of rest, and that's what's kind of provoking this anxiety that's been going on around you. So that's about it for your reading today, my Gemini friends, for February. And thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next time.